Hey everyone, I'm Cilla, and I am one of the normal suburban moms. Doing this video solo, mostly because it's about an experience that I went through, and because my lovely wife is at work right now, and I really wanted to record something in our new office slash studio slash altar room. I don't know, there's so much in here. Do a quick little view of it. Let me turn my camera here. I can do it without knocking anything off. I'm kind of proud of this room. This was a storage room. We cleared it out. We have the record player here, which Thara thinks is her new napping spot, so we put a cat bed on there. We got our camera's not turning right. Oh, here we go. There's the desks and the computer. That's the TV. We have a TV in here. Desks, and then the altar, which has crayons on it right now because I got a new coloring book. I was coloring. So, there you have it. And then we have this nifty little futon here that we got, which we thought would make a really nice recording spot. So, really happy with this room. Really like the lighting in here. We're probably going to get some more ring lights eventually and kind of amp it up a bit. But I think overall we're mostly pretty happy with it. So, animals seem to love it. I actually had to kick the dogs off the futon so that I could record. And next to me I have my sweet three-legged kitty Laurel, who will be perfectly content if I hold her like this the entire time I record. So, it's a nice cozy little room, a place to hang out when we don't want to be in the living room, a place that we can game and work, and anyway, so that's a quick little tour of that. Yeah, I'm kind of procrastinating because I'm a little bit nervous to make this video. What we're going to actually talk about today is a little more in depth into when I had cancer. It's been, going on 2 years now since my initial diagnosis. So I do mention it from time to time. So I figured I may as well just get a video out that kind of just shares my whole journey. Both as something to refer back to, something to clarify anything that I have said in the past that didn't make sense about my health, just in general, and, maybe help somebody else that's going through this journey themselves. So I guess the best place is the beginning, but the problem with that is I don't actually know what the beginning actually was. I guess it was 2018. This is the part where Shannon would come in handy. She's better with medical dates and medical terminology and medical stuff in general, but I'll do the best I can. So, anyway, 2018, I had a DNC, I think it's called a DNC, operation to get rid of some polyps. And shortly afterwards, my leg started hurting, and turned out it was because I had two things actually. I had blood clots and an infection in my left leg. So I ended up in the hospital for a while they were treating that. I went home, and the problem was it didn't really get better. Like, the infection went away, but the pain in my leg didn't really get better. The blood clots went away. but it wasn't really healing. I didn't know if it was because of my job. At the time, I was working in a daycare, and I didn't know if it was because I was up and down with the kids all the time, and I was like, had injured it and kept re-injuring it, or what it was, but it was hurting. So finally, and when I say finally, I mean like a year later, I finally went to see an orthopedic doctor, and they did x-rays and everything, and they noticed something funny in the bone on my left leg and sent me to an oncologist. And this is where things get a little bit muddy. So initially I went to the oncologist, to one doctor who I actually won't reveal their name, only because I'm about to talk about how badly they screwed me over. And so because I don't want to totally ruin their reputation, I'm going to not mention the doctor's name. But I went to this doctor, and he told me that I very likely, almost certainly, had bone cancer. And this particular cancer that he thought I had, which I do not remember the name of, I'm sorry. Before I upload this video, I will either put the name of it in the description or put it somewhere on the screen or something. Like I said, I'm bad with medical terminology. But the cancer that he thought I had was really bad. It had a really poor prognosis. The chances of me surviving weren't particularly great, and the chances that I would get to keep my left leg if I did survive were even less. So it was a pretty bad prognosis, and he told me that I had this, almost certainly that they had to biopsy just to like make it official, but he was so certain that that's what it was. We had already talked about a treatment plan. Like, that's how certain he was. So, this was about a month after my dad passed away from cancer, or complications from cancer, if you want to get technical, I suppose. And so it was very hard on me. It was very hard on my family. The hardest thing I've ever had to do was to tell my mom, after she had just lost her husband, that there was a chance that she's going to lose her only daughter too. It was rough. It was a difficult couple of weeks while I waited for the biopsy results, and then I got, I guess you could say, the best news possible when you have cancer. I found out the doctor was wrong about the type of cancer it was. It wasn't what he thought. It turned out to be non-hodgins lymphoma. Rare type, but a much more treatable cancer than they thought I had. And the thing that really upset me was he had been so certain that I had this. He didn't call me himself to tell me the news. He didn't reach out in any capacity at any time. I was technically supposed to still be under his care because the cancer was in my bone, but I don't know if he even consulted on my case after that. I didn't hear anything from him. I never got an apology for jumping the gun and making me and my family stress out for those couple of weeks. Nothing. I, to this day, have not spoken to that doctor at all. I was handed off to another doctor that could treat the cancer that I did actually have, which turned out to be the best thing possible because he's an amazing doctor, and I just absolutely adore him. So I went to him. He told me it was a great prognosis. It wasn't going to be easy, but that he had every reason to believe that I would be okay. So I started treatment, and I started chemotherapy. Was a pretty, if you know anything about chemotherapy, then the specific regimen I was on was called R-CHOP. And it's pretty intense. I only had to go through 6 rounds, but it was like every 3 weeks and 6 rounds. So while it wasn't a long round, like a long span of having chemotherapy, it was a lot in a short span. It was intense and it was hard. And I couldn't work because you can't work in a daycare while you're undergoing chemotherapy because toddlers are little petri dishes. And my immune system was about to be shot. So, started chemo. It was very difficult. Basically, I felt like cancer had stripped away my whole identity. By this point, I was in a wheelchair because I couldn't walk. I had lost my career that I had worked really hard to get to the level I was at. I lost my hair. My long blonde hair was a huge part of my identity for me. And I was pretty much, I was sick all the time. I felt sick all the time. I was completely reliant on Shannon and our daughter. I felt useless. I just felt like I had lost every bit of who I was to this cancer. And emotionally and mentally, it was the most challenging thing I've ever been through, personally. Not to say the physical effects weren't enormous, because they were, not being able to walk, not being able to shower by myself because I almost passed out in the shower once, not being able to even get out of bed to go to the kitchen sometimes. There were times it was hard to get to the bathroom. It was very physically draining and physically demanding, but the emotional impact of it was just as severe. And there were times that I thought I was never going to feel better. Now, what kept me going was, one, Shannon, the love of my life. I knew that I had to fight so that we could keep living our life together. My mom. But also, well, of course our daughter, but I think that one goes without saying. But also, I was very lucky, which I know sounds really strange when I'm talking about the fact I had cancer. I was really lucky, but I really was, because my cancer started responding to treatment almost immediately. We were able to start seeing results. So that gave me an even better prognosis, which gave me hope. And hope is so huge when you're going through something like that. And to be more specific, the cancer had started in my leg, and it had actually gotten into the lymph nodes. So it had basically started in the lower part of my left leg and gone up to the lymph nodes. But by the grace of the gods, it hadn't spread beyond that, which is really lucky, because if you know anything about lymph nodes, you know that's how cancer spreads through your whole body. So I was very lucky that it stayed restricted within my left leg. and that it started responding so quickly. And so by the time I finished chemo, cancer was gone. Actually, I was about halfway through chemo, to be perfectly honest, when I stopped showing blood counts that were concerning. And so by the time I finished chemo, I was considered officially in remission, which is the biggest relief I've ever had. But also, if you've ever been through chemo, you know that wasn't the end of the journey, because that's not how cancer works. So I made it through this really difficult summer of treatment, but the chemo takes such a toll on your body that just because the cancer is gone doesn't mean you magically feel better. It's almost like you have to go through chemo to get rid of the cancer, and then you have to go through a bit of rehab just to rehabilitate your body to recover from the chemo. So I spent the next 4 months or so recovering from chemo before I had any semblance of my energy level back. And in the interim, while I was recovering, I did go into substitute teaching at the high school level, and that is what led me down the career path of wanting to be a high school teacher. So that is some good that did come out of it. I'm very fortunate because I probably never would have even considered high school teaching of my own volition, unless I had been pushed into it, but now I absolutely love it. So it did lead to a career change. I still do have to go to the doctor every couple of months for blood work to make sure the cancer doesn't come back. I have to get MRIs every 4 months, I think it is, 3 or 4 months, to, again, make sure the cancer doesn't come back. I actually just graduated from having to go to the doctor every 2 months to every 3 because my blood work has been so consistently good for almost a year and a half now. So I'm up to 3 months, which was a huge milestone for me. And wow, okay, sorry. I told myself I would not cry at any point in this video. Sorry. It was a big thing for me. As you can also see, my hair is getting long again. It's not quite as long as it was. It was down to like here at one point. So we're still a long ways from that, but I mean, I can put it up in a ponytail now, which is really big for me. I'm blonde again. If you go back to the very early videos on this channel, you can kind of see the progress of my hair from when we started this channel to now, and it's finally at a point that I'm almost at least happy with it. And it feels nice to have hair again. It feels nice to be teaching again, and it feels nice to just be here and be able to tell you the story. So what I'm hoping that you get out of this is, 1, cancer is a very traumatic experience, as if that has to be said. 2, even if something as bad as cancer happens, it helps to try to look on the bright side. And in my case, it was the fact that my cancer was so treatable. It was the fact I had a great support system around me. It was the fact that my cancer responded quickly and didn't spread further. I had, in the midst of all of the pain and all of the darkness and all of the despair that I was going through at the time, I had those bits of light to hang on to. And I tried, it was hard sometimes, but I tried really hard to remain grateful through everything, because it could have been so much worse than it was. Which leads me to the last thing. If you yourself or somebody you love is going through a battle with cancer, don't pretend to know what your own personal journey is. I know I was lucky. I know my cancer could have been worse. I know there are people that hope is going to be much harder to come by, but you can make it through. It will be hard, but you aren't alone. I guess that's the biggest thing. You aren't alone, because it's really easy to feel alone when you're going through that. Even with Shannon by my side, there were times I felt alone because even though she was there, she didn't understand the pain I was in, the sickness I felt. It's very easy to feel alone, and you're not. There are people that understand. I fought against having anything to do with cancer support groups. I still do. I didn't want to carry the label cancer patient. I fought it. And it's still a label that I'm not particularly comfortable with. Because the fact of the matter is I am still a cancer patient. And I probably always will be, because I will always have checkups for cancer, specifically at the oncologist. But I will say, if you can manage to push yourself past that label, you can manage to talk about it with other people that understand, it can help, at least with the loneliness. So there are people that get it. And there are people that understand that you're not alone. And that being said, if you or someone you love is going through a cancer journey and needs to talk, I am happy to talk. You can always contact me through my YouTube page, or you can follow me on Twitter at TXGirl. That's TXGURL 11. Texas Girl 11. And I'm happy to be there for anybody that's going through what I've been through. I've been on both sides. Like I said, my dad passed away due to complications from cancer. So I've been on the side, standing in hospice, watching my loved one deteriorate. I've been on the side of the patient, fighting for my life. I know what both sides are like, and they're both hard. As hard as it is to be the patient, it is hard to be the caretaker too. It's hard to be the loved one. I think they get overlooked a lot, but their pain is just as intense and just as real. So there are a lot of different places you can reach out to, and that includes us. You can also reach out to your local hospice care, as well as any other number of oncology or cancer associations. I'll put a couple of the main ones in the description down below. So, that is my story. I hope it helps somebody, and I hope it clears up any questions about my health that may have arisen from various things I've said in videos over time. So until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, y'all.